All right, ladies and gents, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is going to be an eventful game. We have Budapest, which was voted into the ranked queue this week. And it's a map that one player seems to be ready for and the other one is not. Swiss Tricky, hello? Yes, this is going to be a tricky start. Swiss Tricky. You have another town center. Okay, the panic is just set in for Swiss Tricky, and Swiss Tricky's like, oh crap. So, anyways, you get 2 TCs on this map, and you also have some water to work with, and then there's lots of wood and stone and gold, just lots of resources in general. But you don't start with any additional resources banked up, so it's kind of tricky to keep your TCs working. I can talk a little bit on general tips, but yeah, it's just kind of double of everything what you would normally start with, right? And so I like what Blue is doing now, getting Loom, because it was hard for Blue to produce out of the TCs initially. Malians Teutons is the Civ matchup. I like Malians a lot for their flexibility because all their wood buildings are cheaper. I like Teutons because of their defensive capabilities and cheap farms and whatnot with their booming. But it's going to be hard for me to really explain the bonuses, and it's going to be hard for players to really make use of the bonuses that easily. With this can be really eventful. But my general tips for you guys is wall and go up to Castle Age in this one. You can go for scouts, but the thing about Budapest is there's normally pretty big wood lines. So I know it's hard enough to manage everything else, but if you're able to manage some walling, it's actually not that much walling. And then you can be fully walled with lots of resources, and then behind those walls you could maybe go to Castle Age. Another thing that's really strong is Castle Drop, because you're really close together, so you can wall up, and then you can drop a castle. We'll see if either player wants to do that. Oh, also, one thing about this map that I think these guys are going to struggle with, and I'm going to mention it now, which is kind of fun. You get used to it being 2 TCs, right? And you're producing out of both your town centers as much as possible. Then you click up to Feudal. And for whatever reason, in our stupid little brains, it feels like the majority of us, when we're new to this, we just forget, oh my god, Red's going to make a barracks and he's going to steal a boar. Dang, sneaky. We just forget at that point to create villagers out of the town center that's not advancing to feudal age. So I'll be curious to see what happens when that stage of the game gets here. Oh, Red with the tricks, and Red's going to take the boar, and bam. Okay. Red says, I'm going to wall. I'm just going to wall with a barracks. And what a stressful start this is. It's kind of interesting. Blue doesn't actually see any of that. Blue is 20 villagers. It is 18 for Red. So Blue has done the slightly better job there. And you do have 4 pawns as well. So you could go to wood and you could dock and also add fishing ships. Then in theory, you could have like 2 docks, 2 TCs, and you could be at some crazy population a bit later on. The Blue Scout is here. Red Scout has brought both the scouts over. That's another thing you can do on this map. Since you have 2 scouts, you can go pick off villagers and be aggressive. And wow, Gold Eagle has been very sneaky in this game. It almost seems like he's the one who would have favorited this map. Because remember, Swiss Tricky on this side, he didn't realize right away that it was 2 TCs. Oh yeah, Gold Eagle's aggressive. 1200 Elo's no joke these days, guys. Really strong. Blue is just still scouting around. Seems like Blue is just going to accept that this scout's going to die. Runs directly into that TC. A 28 eco versus 24. But Swiss Tricky doesn't have a lot of map control. Swiss Tricky is going to now place a dock. I really like the consistency of Budapest. I feel like I can always wall easily. Yeah, you can always wall easily. You can always justify a dock. There's always lots of food for you. But it's always very stressful. Like, I feel like the average player isn't going to want to play Budapest. I had a viewer telling me earlier today that, earlier this week, that they like to play Huns on this map because they don't have to make houses, and it's so easily to forget about houses when you're producing this much. Which kind of makes sense to me, honestly. But yeah, I like the fact that Blue is trying to dock. I don't know if a 1200 Eagle player is going to be able to multitask, to be able to fish boom out of 2 docks and also do everything else, but the only big thing that Blue is really missing so far in this game is just walling. Like, the wall potential's so easy between the wood lines. You got to make sure you wall up so you're not attacked, in my opinion. What are good civilizations on this map? Well, that's a good question. I would say that my favorite's probably Hindustanis. You have cheaper villagers. It's pretty easy to produce villagers in Dark Age, Feudal Age, Castle Age. And then you have awesome options, right? Like, a lot of other civilizations that we'll get to that are good on this map are good knight civilizations, like the Huns, like the Berbers, like the Franks, maybe. And I feel like the Hindustanis match up nicely there. Because there's just going to be so much economy, archers can be a little more complicated to play here. So generally speaking, you see a lot of stable units. But I also really like unique unit civs, so civilizations that have good castle drop potential, because you can wall, go for eco, and then drop a castle here, and suddenly you're kind of dropping a castle on your opponent's base, and you're also protecting your own stone and gold. So, you know, with that, you could maybe include the Mayans. You could maybe say Vietnamese, maybe Koreans. How many fishing ships to have around minute 10? That depends, right? That very much depends on your whole approach here. If it's a standard game, the answer might be like 5 or 6. But on this type of map, I think it's very different. Like here, blue has had the fishing ships, but because everything's been so stressful, blue hasn't. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna rewind and just show you. Blue didn't create a villager out of this TC the whole time. This is precisely what I said earlier. Blue just forgot about it. What about red? Okay, red seems like red was trying to, but was housed actually. So good job from red there. So blue has seen red walling and hasn't chosen to wall at all. Red is now on the next stage. Red doesn't have the gold to be able to go up to the next stage. We'll be able to make the buildings quite easily and has a lot more food banked up right now. And that's going to be a villager down, I think. We'll see red bringing over the scouts. This will be the first villager kill of the game. Red doesn't want to lose that villager, but doink, does lose the villager. Sad times for that Vil. We see a blacksmith here for blue. If there was a market going up somewhere else as well right now, that would be buildings required to go up to the next stage. Bit weird how there's extra golden stone here and there's not down here. I wonder if this stone and this gold, like maybe they're also neutrals and it just so happened that the golden stone spawned in the north in this case. Like maybe all the golden stone that's next to the town centers is standard, and then you just have 4 neutral stone piles, or I guess mining piles. Okay. Blue is the blacksmith, blue is the market, and blue's going to stone. I think any civ can be a castle drop civilization on this map. And then the other thing, and let's see if blue remembers to create villagers out of this TC. It looks like blue is. The other thing is your economy is going to be so good that you could even go fast imp. So castle drop and then have, you know, enough resources to click up to imp immediately afterwards to go for trebs. I think red had everything going right here and then just didn't get the buildings down. Red is going to go to stone though. And red will have the buildings in a moment. And red could follow blue to Castle Age. In Dark Age, do you still aim to put the same amount of villagers on resources as 1 TC? No, because if you try and go 6 on food, 3 on wood on both sides, you're going to probably float a little bit too much wood. I would say, I'm trying to think of a way to break this down for you. And it's a bit generally speaking, right? Like, the main thing is you want to be producing villagers out of your TCs at all times before you transfer over to other resources. So, whatever that number ends up being, that might end up being like 12 to 15 on food. Like maybe it is kind of what you said. Maybe you go 12 on food first, because that's 6 on food per TC, and then you transfer to wood. I guess the math would still be somewhat consistent there. It is a bit trickier though, because you don't start with double resources. But yeah, what I do is I just have everything on food underneath my TCs for a while. When I'm at around 10 to 12 villagers, I send 3 villagers to a lumber camp. And at that point, you know, you start to think about maybe mills or spending the wood on fishing ships. Blue lost a villager there to those scouts, and now is dropping a castle here. And blue needs to fight this up. Blue doesn't have army yet. And red will see this castle's coming up, and red's going to try and plan for the future here. I think poles would be a really awkward civ to pick here, because there's not a lot of easy farm space. And the 2 TC starts are very messy and difficult to perform. And I think you get the most out of poles when the game is more relaxed. Red did not scout any of the docks, so he doesn't know about the fish potential. Hasn't thought about it himself. Has always had the opportunity to fish. Didn't do so. 49 villagers for blue. It is 41 for red. And you have to be really careful here if you're red, because your opponent could run right in. Now, right here, look at the resources for blue. Obviously, if you get in, great. But let's just assume that red gets these walls down. I'm not completely sure it's fully walled on this side. I think there's a hole there. And there was, and now it's been plugged. But now you go fast imp. So you have this castle, and now you just think Imperial Age and Trebs. I don't think you make more knights here. I could just tell you that that's what higher level players would do. Is they'd force you into defensive castle, it's then a castle war, and then you just go to imp and treb it down. However, still a really good position for Swiss Tricky, who I think didn't know what this map was at the start. And you could always use these knights to break through and do damage elsewhere, which is never really a bad thing. So red was the player who walled first. Red was the player who seemed to know what this map was first. And red's now going to wall again. And needs to wall pretty quickly here because blue's a knockin' with these knights. And, oh man, I'm stressing out a little bit. Stress, please. Okay, nice job. I think we're just going to see another castle. Interesting. We don't have a lot of farming eco for either player. I think you would need to take out this palisade wall first, but yeah, a castle here would be perfect. He doesn't even know that red has the TC there. But okay, he decides to drop the castle there. So they will be in Castle Age for a very long time, I believe, because at this point they've like spent all their food on villagers and army. And blue is the fishing ships, which I think has been really helpful in this transition. Is also adding the cheat Teuton farms, which is also helpful. But yeah, we'll see. Where's she going? That Cabeto. I think maybe the rally point was set here. And with the pathing, it tried to go this way. I think Swiss Tricky's got the better position right now. Red getting even the second farm upgrade here, trying to squeeze that in before some of these farms complete, but is buying lots of food. We didn't really see the Malian flexibility play a massive role. The cheaper wood buildings. I guess we did see 4 stables and lots of houses and whatever else. But I think the lack of docking is maybe the difference maker thus far. Because the idea of a fish boom is to give you enough food to produce out of 3 TCs as you transition into farms. That's kind of the outlook on it. I'm trying to give tips here, by the way. I know that some people might not really understand Bedouins, so I'm doing my best. All right, red has enough stone for a castle. Blue almost has enough stone for another castle. Red deletes the town center? What? You could have placed a castle there even with the town center there. Well, okay. Has the quick wall again. Red's quick walling skills are very good, I have to say. I'm not sure you needed to delete your TC. You'll notice that throughout this, blue is still doing a good job at producing eco. And I'm going to assume that red just felt like the castle couldn't go up in that spot if the TC was there. So now we have a castle war on both sides. And it's a very close castle battle right now. Blue has fletching. Red does not. But again, you know, how helpful would trebuchets be here, right? I would have liked to seen like the first 2 knights from blue, no upgrades, and just try and get to the Imperial Age. And I think the way back for red would be to somehow use the market, sell all that wood, buy food, and get up to imp. Because if you can get trebs out early, that's going to matter so much here when players are so close. Blue's like trying to find a way through. But man, blue's economy is just so good here, guys. He's done an amazing job. More of every single resource. And seems to be in a good spot to go up to Imp and recognizes the importance of that, and bam. There we go. We got some beautiful farms here from Red. Looks like he watches the channel. Shout out to you, Gold Eagle. I actually remember a player from the early days for me. So like 2015, 2016. It's from the US. His name was something Eagle. I doubt this would be the same player. It is possible, though. I had an interesting blast from the past when I uploaded the CBA video 2 months ago. There was a comment from someone, and they were like, we used to play CBA all the time in 2013. I don't know if you remember me. And I looked at the comments, and I replied to it. I was like, hey, like, what were your names? He was like, this is my name, and these are the people you used to play with. And I absolutely remember that. And I actually messaged one of my old CBA friends on Facebook. I hadn't talked to the guy since like 2015. And I caught up with him a little bit after that, which was really cool. Kind of struggling to see a way back here for Red. I think Red recognized the importance of Imp. And that's good, but we're not seeing anything from Red army-wise. And Blue already has good army. And Blue's going to be an Imp faster. And Blue's got greater economy. I think Red understood the map a little bit better in the early stages. At least in terms of the walling, but forgot to dock and didn't really have the best of economies this game. And while Red's quick walling was amazing, at the end of the day, he was focusing on the quick walling. Whereas like Blue was focusing on the economy and the army production a little bit more. So it did take away from some other aspects of the game, possibly. As we wait for Imp, we've had a total of 12 kills in this game. We see Blue arrive, and I'm sure Red's probably like, ah, God, that sucks. What do I do? And we immediately will have 2 trebs queued out of these castles from Blue. And we will see these castles most likely go down for Red. One thing that can be helpful for Red is that chemistry will research really fast out of his university, because Malian universities are speedy. So you could maybe make bombard cannons. The Teutons do have crenellations, though, as an option out of their castles, which gives them some pretty crazy range. So lots of bad things on the cards, I think, for Red. Just because Blue's going to be in such a good position here. What was your AoE name in 2013 to 2015? Were you always T90? I was T90 XVI up until like maybe 6 months into my channel. And I created my channel in January of 2015. So I think I changed it to T90 official in like June or July of 2015. So yeah, the CBA days, I would have been T90 XVI for a bit. All right, so we're going to see camels from Red. Not a bad choice. But you'll notice a lot of these golds are going to be between these castles, right? So you're losing access to the gold. Oh my God, what's the treb doing? Well, the walling and the pathing has been really awkward there for Red. That's not the first time we've seen a unit come out of the castle directly into Blue's grasp. First Civ I fell in love with. I think Mongols was the first Civ I fell in love with. I do recall a solid portion of time where I used to play a lot with Spanish as well. I loved not spending resources on, not spending gold on blacksmith upgrades. I just felt like that was the coolest thing. And I loved to go Paladin. And I liked how they could go for Paladin, Champion, Hussar, Halb. I didn't really care for archers, so... Red's quick walling skills are great. The problem is everything else is not so great. I mean, not skill-wise. That came off the wrong way. But, you know, the things happening in this game is still really bad for him. And even if you complete this castle, it feels like you're going to have some pretty big problems. There are camels on the way. They're not heavy camels. And there's not even... Oh, God, Red doesn't even have the pop space to be able to produce anything. Oh, because the 2 castles were a big part of the pop space. 68 pop out of 70 now. Okay, well, I guess it helps when you also lose a lot of eco. Then suddenly you have pop space for army. But Blue played this well. I don't think Budapest in a 1v1 is necessarily the best content for you guys as viewers. But I think from an informational standpoint, you guys could maybe like learn some tidbits on what players can prioritize on this map. Higher level Budapest is... Maybe I could put a big focus on that, because you do see a lot of castle dropping and unique units as well. Particularly unique units that cost wood and gold, because you can still make those units out of your castles and still go up to Imp. But yeah, I think Blue just played really well. Gold Eagle taps out, calls the GG. And isn't this an interesting stat, guys? According to Capture Age, Red's a little bit faster at times, but Blue's certainly more consistent throughout the game. I think in that type of game, I'd prefer Teutons as well. But actually, you know what? I take it back. I think having cheaper wood buildings is huge when there's water incorporated. I think that's something that Red could have done a better job of. Red clearly understood the map. Red stole a boar. Red walled up. And Blue just said, I don't care, man. I've got farms. I've got fish. I don't need that boar. I don't need to be aggressive like you. I'll just wait till the later stages. And nice job there from Swiss Tricky. I don't know. Does that mean that Swiss Tricky goes up? I guess he doesn't hit 1200 yet. If this Elo is actually accurate, maybe he's just under it still. But road to 1200 Elo. Let's go. Yeah, 6-1 KD. 10k more resources. Castle time was 16 minutes, which is impressive. Well played. Wait, did I say Bedouins? Oh my god, I'm so sorry. And you guys corrected me. Budapest. I'm sorry. Bedouins is another map. We'll edit that out. We won't actually edit it out. I'm sorry. Did I say that the whole game? Or did I just say it near the end? But yeah, Bedouins is a map that was introduced years and years ago. And it's very similar to African Clearing. In fact, African Clearing was created because the devs didn't want to like just put Bedouins in because it was a community created thing. So they put their own spin on it, similar to Four Lakes. Not the whole game, but often. Okay. Well, you know, Hardy, if this ever hits YouTube, maybe we can actually edit something in that says not Bedouins, but Budapest. I'm sorry. My mind was thinking about the map, and I guess it went to the next map on the list that started with B. But man, 1200 Elo is intense. That was good.